So there's a lot of people saying, I don't understand why you would want a battery swap. I think someone from ARK Invest even said this as well. Well, that doesn't matter at all for NIO when we think about NIO coming into the US market. If battery swapping does become a thing, obviously NIO has the best technology for battery swapping in the world. But if it doesn't become a thing, obviously NIO has a lot of competitive technologies that would still pose well for the company and put them in a good position to succeed in the American market.
If you want to be a part of the conversation before it happens here on YouTube, click that link in the description to join the free Courtside Financial Discord.
What's going on, everyone? My name's Obi and welcome back to Courtside Financial, the podcast where we talk about business and technology. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about NIO and its attempt to enter the US market. We're going to be talking about some of the ways that NIO might find success in entering the US market and some of the challenges that they might face. But I want to make this video mostly about why NIO is still kind of going to be poised, in my opinion, to succeed in the US market should they be granted the privilege of entry. So it's going to be a super interesting video. Make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 10K subscribers before the year is over. If you could help us out with that, we'd be ever so grateful. Click the notification bell icon and leave a comment down below. All your engagement really does go a long way in helping out the channel, helping it grow, helping it to reach a broader audience. And so without further ado, let's get into the episode. So when it comes to the world of electric vehicles, the fast-paced world of electric vehicles, NIO isn't just keeping up, they're leading the charge. But when it comes to entering into the US market, they're facing some speed bumps. I mean, CEO and chairman of NIO, William Lee, or Ben Lee, however you refer to him, has actually addressed this and labeled it as protectionism, citing that Tesla has been able to have a lot of success in China, the biggest EV market. China has let Tesla in. Why won't America let in all these other Chinese electric vehicles? Now, obviously, from a political standpoint, geopolitical standpoint, the government is kind of labeling everything as digital espionage, trying to protect against that, trying to stop Chinese smart vehicle makers from spying on American consumers, which might have some validity to it. It might also not have some validity to it. I try to consider both perspectives. There's one perspective that says this is just protectionism. China has mastered making electric vehicles and being able to create vehicles at lower price points. We've got BYD with a $13,000 SUV. We don't have any American cars at that price point that are practical, in my opinion. So there's a camp of people who believe that the U.S. just doesn't want China to come in, flood the market, and take money from the economy. Obviously, ideally, this has to be done in a way that's equitable for both parties. Selling Teslas in China doesn't just make money for Tesla, an American company, also makes money for China as well. Anyways, I could go off on a tangent. I'm getting beyond my point. This is why I try to create a script every day and stick to it because, yeah. But anyways, let's keep going. So there's several ways for NIO to enter the US market, obviously. And they're going to have to do so outside of their traditional means if they want to have success in this market. NIO is a company that is kind of built on their moat of, I like to call it, if you build it, it will come. If you ever seen that movie Field of Dreams. But anyways, with NIO, what that means is that they're trying to build as much infrastructure, get as much infrastructure on the ground as possible so that they can kind of promote the adoption of electric vehicles, enhance their battery swapping network to make their vehicles more primed for consumers, get these partnerships like they're doing with companies like Geely, for Geely to begin battery swapping and using NIO's infrastructure network. The problem in the US is that who has the biggest infrastructure network and the best infrastructure network? Tesla. While all these companies are putting down their infrastructure in the US, NIO's kind of boxed out. They're not in this market yet. And that's the moat that they're creating their business around in China. So with that, the stage is kind of set. NIO needs to figure out a smart way to enter into the US market without just relying on building as much infrastructure as possible. And I think also, to go back to that point before we move on, William Li also said that he's more focused on how quickly he can get infrastructure on the ground than how quickly cars can sell, than how quickly they're selling cars. And I'm paraphrasing. I can find that article and pull it up for anyone who is a doubter, because sometimes we do get doubters, but I have a pretty good memory. So anyways, picture this: a NIO vehicle cruising from Detroit to New York City on just a single charge. Not just a dream, it is now a reality. It's a testament of NIO being able to push the boundaries in performance with their 150 kilowatt hour semi-solid state battery that recently rolled off the production line. NIO's clearly redefining what's possible in electric mobility. It's about doing so with style, efficiency, and a whole lot of power. So why am I bringing this up in a video about NIO trying to enter the US market and have competitive advantages? That 150 kilowatt hour semi-solid state battery, the technology is here. However, it is very expensive. A lot of people can't afford that, and like any technology, over time the cost will come down. But how can NIO make it more accessible to people who can't afford it but would like to take advantage of the technology? Well, with NIO, it's not all about battery swapping. Let's say battery swapping isn't going to be a big thing in the US. Just one possibility. I'm not saying that is how it is or that's how it's going to be. Nothing's written in stone, but let's just pretend for a second that battery swapping doesn't work out pretty well in the US. NIO isn't just about battery swapping. Battery as a service, one of the big key points, something to put emphasis on, is the separation of the vehicle and the battery. Battery as a service is NIO's option to allow consumers to purchase the car and rent the battery, which is the most expensive component of an electric vehicle. So if consumers can't afford this 150 kilowatt hour solid state battery that'll allow someone to get from Detroit to New York on a single charge outright, guess what? They can lease it. That is a competitive advantage that NIO would have coming into the US market. With battery as a service and the separation there, NIO is making EV ownership more affordable and more accessible to the masses. And not even just EV ownership, but allowing people to have more comprehensive, performant technology with this battery as a service model. Imagine you're buying a Tesla, and I like Tesla, I'm not a Tesla basher, but imagine you're buying a Tesla and Tesla somehow has a 150 kilowatt hour solid state battery as well. You would have to pay the entire cost of this battery plus the on top of the cost of the car. Not the same case with NIO. There's more options, there's more flexibility, there's more choice. It's not just about buying the car, but it's about owning a piece of the future. And not to mention with their sub-brand, imagine being able to put this type of battery in an even cheaper vehicle that's already made for the mass market Envo. Consumers are going to have more access to more range than their counterparts that choose to buy from other companies that aren't doing battery as a service. Another key point here on why NIO would have a huge advantage in the US market is still because of the separation of the battery and the vehicle. William Li not too long ago had just called for the extension of battery warranties. There's millions of batteries coming up on their 8th year where the warranty is just done, finito. And that puts millions of consumers in a position to where they might have a very large unexpected expense. And like we said in this video already, the battery is one of the most, if not the most expensive component in an electric vehicle at this point in time. The thing with NIO is that you don't have to necessarily worry about that because these batteries are easily removable from the chassis with a battery swapping station, and you don't even have to own the battery in the first place. You can lease it. So consumers get to avoid one of the biggest pain points of having an electric vehicle today, which is battery degradation. If you buy a Tesla, you're stuck with that battery for the life of the vehicle until something changes. Nothing's changed yet. So battery degradation is still a very real thing. So there's a lot of people saying, I don't understand why you would want a battery swap. I think someone from ARK Invest even said this as well. Well, that doesn't matter at all for NIO when we think about NIO coming into the US market. If battery swapping does become a thing, obviously NIO has the best technology for battery swapping in the world. But if it doesn't become a thing, obviously NIO has a lot of competitive technologies that would still pose well for the company and put them in a good position to succeed in the American market. Now, these are just two ideas that are just off the top of my head, but there's several ways for a company to enter a new market, and I'm sure these are all being thought through. NIO spends tons of money on research and development, and you better bet that some of that R&D is going into uncovering what works best for consumers in different markets. That's going to be it for this episode. I hope you guys found this insightful. Leave some comments down below. I want to understand some ways that you think NIO could tactfully thrive in the American market, how they could enter it, what they're doing today that will work over here, what they're doing today that won't work over here. Leave a comment down below. We'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.